Welcome to the Industry Experts Panel at PortfolioWealthGlobal.com. My name is Michelle Holliday. Our guest today is a legend within the arena of global investors. We're honored to be welcoming back to the show Mr. Jim Rogers. He was the co-founder of the Quantum Fund. He is a best-selling author, and he continues to hold the international reputation of being one of the top most successful financial investors in the world. Jim has been predicting our current financial crisis for the past several years, and he is an expert at thriving in bear markets. He's coming to us today from Singapore, and we're so privileged to have him here to share his incredible knowledge and his Nostradamus-like predictions. Jim, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am delighted to be here, Michelle. I hope things are great in San Diego. They seem to be okay here in Singapore.
Yes, sir. Everything is going fine, relatively speaking, in terms of the world. Now, we are thrilled
to clarify one thing. Yes, what I have said is often is that the next bear market is going to be the worst in my lifetime. I've also said I don't know when it's coming. You know, you should watch things like Portfolio Wealth Global to find out when it's coming. But all I said was in 2008, we had a huge problem because of too much debt. The next time it's going to be worse because the debt has gone higher and higher and higher. It's a fairly simple statement. I'm surprised it got so much attention.
Right. Well, you know, a lot of people have said it. No one ever really pinpointed it except you. The last time you were on the show was in September. And if everybody wants to go back and view that program, he actually said it was coming. It was coming fast. Secondly, he predicted a global cryptocurrency, which I don't know if you remember our conversation on that one, Jim, but you said that one was coming almost immediately. And I was like, no, because here in the United States, we don't see anything like that on the ground as of yet. And then, Jim, lo and behold, in the coronavirus stimulus package, it was held a digital dollar, everyone, and a digital wallet. Now, I want to say right now that terminology was taken out of the bill before it was signed into law, but it gives everyone some perspective on the fact that, Jim, the infrastructure is in fact in place. You were right, and I want to talk about this.
I'm delighted to. Let's be sure you understand. When I said the money is going to be on the computer, which I said over and over and over again, it's going to be government money. It's not. I wish it weren't, but you know, it's already in China. You cannot use money in China. You can't buy ice cream. You can't take a taxi with money. It's all on the computer already. It's already happening in some countries, and it's going to. I don't like it. Governments like it, Michelle. It gives them more control, more knowledge. They'll know everything you do, but it's going to happen.
Jim, it was just such an incredible prediction at the time. And so the fact that they actually had that item in the stimulus bill, again, I don't want to frighten everybody. It was taken out. However, for them to have had it in and our president to be ready to sign that bill within days, that means the infrastructure is in fact in place. Does that mean a global currency, or what are we looking at? Break it down for us.
Well, all our money, to repeat, already in China and some parts of Asia, it's already happening. I tried to buy an ice cream in Beijing a few months ago. I couldn't buy it. The woman couldn't take money. She gave me the ice cream in the end. I had money, but she couldn't take money. She felt sorry for this poor foreigner, so she gave me the ice cream. I wish I'd been buying a Mercedes or something worthwhile. So it is already happening. It's going to be government money. Now, your main question was governments are probably going to come up with some kind of international money to settle international debts. We have SDRs now, strategic drawing rights, which not used at all, but with the computer and with money being able to be on the computer before too much longer, your dollars and my dollars, US dollars, are going to be on the computer. But if we have to pay, or if the government has to pay somebody in Brazil, they'll be able to do it electronically with a international currency or instantly exchanged U.S. dollars. It's kind of, as I said, Michelle, they're going to know everything we do. They love it.
Right. And as I mentioned, you're like Nostradamus. I mean, what you say actually comes through. And you are one of the only people that I know that I've interviewed that actually takes place, and it takes place so quickly. Do you see
Michelle,
this?
I want to tell you, I make a lot of mistakes. You want to hear about my first wife? What a mistake that was. Oh, my God. I make plenty of mistakes, Michelle.
Well, I haven't heard one yet, and I want you to talk about you went into it a little bit, the transparency of it all. Do you see any positives in this?
Well, there are certainly, from government's point, money's expensive. They have to print it, they have to transport it, they have to account for it, they have to protect it. So money's very, very expensive for government. So they love the idea that it can be on the computer. It will save governments, therefore, in theory, us a lot of money. It's also much, much more convenient. We don't have to carry wallets or worry about our money getting lost. It's easier that way. The major downside, though, Michelle, as far as I'm concerned, I assure you, if I have a cup of coffee, they're going to know exactly where I had it, how much it cost me. They'll know how much coffee I drank in April. They'll know everything. And that cannot be good for the world. It's good for them being governments. Is it good for us? No.
Okay. If you don't mind my saying so, you are part of what people consider to be extremely wealthy and extremely up there. And so people have the perspective that you might not be so concerned with the transparency of it all, but you indeed are, right?
I am extremely concerned with it, for goodness sake, because it gives them too much power and too much knowledge. They already have too much power and too much knowledge. No, I would think that wealthy people would be more worried than less wealthy people, because if you have a boyfriend, Michelle, they're going to know it. They're going to know where he lives. They're going to know how much you go to dinner with him. They're going to know everything about you and your boyfriend. And if you give him money, if you buy him a shirt, they're going to know it. They're going to know what color it was. This is not good for you or your boyfriend. Or me.
Right. Jim, let's shift topics just for a moment, because I want to talk about the financial markets. Do you believe that the stock market was in a bubble in America? And of course, I know the answer to that question, but with the recent historic sell-off, do you think that bubble has now been completely popped? Where are we sitting right now?
Well, the U.S. market went up 10 years. That's the longest in history that the American stock market went up, and the American economy expanded without a setback, without a recession. I mean, it doesn't have to happen every few years, but it always has. I mean, for all I know, it's go 100 years. Never has, never has even gone 10 years before. So yes, we were certainly overdue. Stocks were expensive, very expensive. Some stocks went up every day almost. I mean, it's absurd what was happening with some stocks. So yes, we were certainly in a bubble, certainly in a bond bubble. There's no question about that. So financial markets in the U.S., and let's talk about the U.S. Since it's the largest, and since we're both Americans, the U.S. market was in a bubble. It has now been popped. There's always a reason that pops a bubble that comes along. In 2000, it was Y2K. There's always something. This time it was the virus. Is it over? I suspect what is happening, governments everywhere are printing and spending staggering amounts of money like has never been done in history. And so they're going to goose it up with all this money. I mean, the guy in Japan goes to work every day, runs the printing presses, prints money, and buys stocks. I mean, it's astonishing what the Japanese are doing, and America too, soon, everywhere. So this is adding to the markets. It will probably goose us up for a while, but it's not over, Michelle, if you ask me, because a lot of damage has been done, but worse, a huge amount of debt has been added to the system, and that's good for this month. That's good for the election in November of 2000. But is it good for 2023? Is it good for young people? Oh, poor young people. I've got two young girls, two daughters. Oh my gosh, this is not good for them. Not good for you. You're young people. It's not good for anybody.
Well, now I want to ask you where we're at, because we had about a 35% drop, and there was a rally then a bit for about 20%, which caused a bit of a new bull market. But are these arbitrary 20% swings even applicable? Because it was caused by such a unique situation in that the coronavirus was so odd. Your thoughts?
Well, the markets were very extended, very expensive. Just, the U.S. market made a high in February, but you look back to 3 months before that, it went up on a tear. It almost had a blow-off kind of bubble, a blow-off kind of experience. So we were overdue. If it hadn't been the virus, we would have been having a downdraft anyway. Nothing like this, of course, because this brought out all the skeletons from the closet. In my view, yes, is it real? No, it's not real, because the virus is not going to last forever. But the consequences are real, and a lot of damage has been done to the world economy. I presume we will recover, but nothing like what we had before. Not for a while, anyway.
That leads us into my next topic, which of course is focusing in on the coronavirus on a global scale. It's interesting that the economic impact seems to be much more intense than the scare of the coronavirus itself. In India, there are videos of crowds, Jim, that are waiting to get free milk because the supply chain is completely cut off. And when you watch it, they're so tightly packed together. They don't have any face masks on. They have no fear whatsoever of the virus. Timeline-wise, when you look at the world and you look at this virus, how long do you think this is going to take for us to get back to work and to normalize?
From the virus, China's already opening up again. You're already some places in Asia anyway seem to have it more or less under control, at least at the moment. So some places are opening up already. Austria is opening up. Other countries. The U.S. is behind everybody else, unfortunately. But soon in Asia, things are going to be resuming their normal operations, and I hope that gets to the West. The problem for Asia is that the West is now going into lockdown, and so their customers are in the West. Europe's the largest economy in the world. If Europe is closed, it doesn't do Japan much good, or Korea, or China, because Europe is closed. But Asia's opening slowly. Europe, I presume, will soon. Austria already has. Eventually, even the U.S. will get it under control. I don't know, this summer, say. I have no way of knowing. But I do know the world is starting. And, Michelle, some people are starting to realize or take the view that the cure might be worse than the disease. Yes, it's horrible for people to get sick and horrible for people to die. But, the cost of what is going on, you're going to have many, many, many more deaths from other causes because of the horrible, horrible economic setbacks and the future debt. So many people are already trying to figure out how to start up again. So the long answer is probably by this summer, but don't rely on me. I have no clue.
Yeah, the domino effect.
Watch your show.
No.
They'll tell you.
But the domino effect, Jim, is it's tragic. I want to ask you something about the sell-off, because something that was very unique this time in this crash was that investors did not sell the stocks in order to buy bonds. They sold both. And they kept their cash because bonds basically yield nothing anymore. The rush into cash, made the bond market almost extinct. And the only thing that saved it was the Federal Reserve stepping in to make it liquid. Is the fact that the Federal Reserve's response in printing huge amounts of money in order to do this better than the alternative? And what would the alternative have looked like?
Michelle, in my view, no. We've had recessions for hundreds of years, every few years. Recessions are not fun, and they hurt. They hurt a lot of people when they happen, but recessions do clean out excesses. It's like a forest fire. Forest fires are horrible if you're in them, but it cleans out underbrush, dead wood, and the forest can grow better after the forest fire. Now, it doesn't mean that recessions are good, but it's not the end of the world. We've had them forever. Again, the Federal Reserve increased its balance sheet like 500% between 2008 and the last year or so. Now they're skyrocketing the balance sheet again. Is this good for the world? Michelle, if I had said this even 20 years ago, people would have locked me up, because it's inconceivable that central banks could have done ever what these central banks are doing. And it's happening. We're sitting here watching it. It's inconceivable, and the consequences are not going to be good for the world. It will help some politicians get reelected this year, but it's not good for the world, what's happening.
So you feel like it would have been better not to print this and just to let the bonds fall and let whatever was going to happen to the market happen?
Yes, the market is smarter than I am. And I promise you, Michelle, the market is smarter than the bureaucrats and the academics at the American Central Bank in Washington, D.C.
Right. The market just would have corrected itself. It would have been rough, but we wouldn't have had these trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. Right?
After the First World War, we had a problem in America. In Washington, they raised interest rates. They balanced the budget. It was horrible for a year or two, but they cleaned out the excesses. And then we had the greatest economic decade in American history. Sound economics have been around for hundreds of years, and some countries have practiced them. Scandinavia in the early 90s, same thing. They had a horrible time. People went bankrupt. But after 2 or 3 bad years, Scandinavia boomed after they cleaned out the excesses, took the pain, moved on. Things were great. Japan in 1990 refused to let anybody fail. It is 30 years later, Michelle, 30 years later, and the Japanese stock market is still down 60%. They've had one lost decade after another because they keep propping people up instead of letting nature take its course and letting failure fail. 30 years later, the stock market's down 60%. Is that good? As I say, sound economics always prevails. Bad economics always prevails.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, they just keep printing it in front of us, Jim. It's so frustrating, too, as an American, and yourself as an American, even though you're in Singapore right now, to know that this is happening to our money and to know they're printing it into worthlessness, but no one has the power to stop them. Why is this, Jim? Why is this happening?
Well, because right now everybody says, oh, we must save. We must save Sally. We must save Bob. We must save people. And people get emotional, and I understand, as I said, recessions are horrible. We all have to feel sorry for someone who loses his job or loses money. But, sometimes emotions get in the way of sound judgment, and that's what's happening now. If Mr. Trump went on TV and said, we must bite the bullet, we'll get through this, don't worry. He's got an election in November, Michelle. He's a politician like all the rest of them. They don't care about my children. They care about November. They don't care about you.